Today we're going to talk about percent of change. This is another formula that you do need to make sure you memorize. Last time we talked about the simple interest, and so we had to memorize that formula, I equals PRT. This time now we're talking about percent of change. So the formula for percent of change, and again, make sure that you are taking notes on this information. Remember Cornell notes, and I didn't mean a dot there. Remember to think about your Cornell notes. You're dividing your paper into a skinny column on the left-hand side and a wider column on the right-hand side. So the percent of change is equal to a fraction. I made that too long. It's going to be the big number minus the little number, and it's all over the original number. You take that, and now then you're going to times it by 100, because that's going to be that percent idea. So when you're doing percent of change, you're taking whatever, you usually have two numbers. You're going to take the larger number minus the smaller number, divide it by the original number that you were given. It might have been the big number or it might have been the little number, but you're going to divide it by the original number and then times it by 100. One of the things about percent of change, and this is important to make sure you realize, percent of change can either be an increase or a decrease. So you can have a percent increase or a percent decrease. That's one of the things to keep in mind with this. Okay, let's do some examples here. On our first example, it says this. On Monday, Jake could lift. That's good. Let me write that again. £25. 1 month later, he could lift 45 pounds. What is the percent of change in the number of pounds he can lift? So we're looking for percent of change, like we said. All right, so again, just like we did the other day with the I equals PRT, start with a formula. Again, this is going to get us leading into doing geometry and other problems that involve formulas. So always, always, always start with a formula. So I'm going to just kind of abbreviate a little bit. Percent of change. My formula was equal to the big minus the little over the original. And again, we're going to times this by 100. All right, so let's start plugging in some numbers then. When I look at my question, it says, on Monday, Jake could lift 25 pounds. 1 month later, he could lift 45 pounds. Which one is my big number? Hopefully you said 45. My little number then is 25. And what is the original number? The original number is what he could first do, the first number they talk about. Monday, he could lift 25 pounds. So 25 pounds is my original number. It's right here, 25. Remember, once I do this math, I do the subtraction, divide by 25, then I'm going to multiply by 100. So that means that my percent of change is going to equal 20 over 25 times 100, which means it's going to equal 80%. Now, here's the other thing I need to know. Was this a percent increase or was this a percent decrease? If you think about it, it has to be a percent increase because when we look at our original question, it says that he could lift 25 pounds. This is where he started right here. And the next time or a month later, it's now this. Clearly, he went from 25 pounds to 45 pounds. That went up. So since it went up, that means that it is a percent increase. So my percent of change is equal to an 80% increase. Got to make sure I have that increase word in here because that's what we're talking about. It's an increase. Let's try another one. Okay, today the price of a new cell phone is $129. In 2000, the price of a similar cell phone was $240. What is the percent of change? I put a little asterisk here or star to remind you that we're looking also, is it an increase or is it a decrease? So make sure you're remembering that for the last part of our problem. Again, we need to start with a formula. So we're going to have percent of change. The percent of change is equal, again, to big minus little over original. And again, we're going to times all this by 100. All right, so what is my big number? My big number, 240, minus my little number, 129, all over the original number. Which is the original number? Is it 129 or is it 240? Should be 129. And then we're going to multiply this by 100. So when I do the math, I wind up with 11 over 129. And then again, I'm timesing this by 100. So it comes out to be 86%. Remember, I'm not done. Is it a percent increase or is it a percent decrease? In this case, it is a percent decrease because it clearly went down. Let's look at what we have. The original number is this, and that number is smaller than this one. So therefore, it's a decrease. Okay, this is what we're going to be talking about next class. So this was a pretty quick video this time. I just wanted to give you basically the formula. Make sure you do have the notes on this, and make sure you are practicing or getting some ideas of what kinds of things might be increases or decreases as far as a percent increase or a percent decrease. So next class, we'll be working with this during class. I hope you have a good evening, and I'll see you next class.